Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today we're looking back at an interesting article by an expert that has suggested about something happening to Noah Presgrove, then walking off, collapsing on the highway and getting struck by a vehicle, but not directly as a means of a hit and run, but a vehicular-based event. This could well link on in recent time with what Tim Daniel had suggested about two events taking place which caused two different groups of injuries to Noah's body to justify the overall autopsy report. We're going to go through it bit by bit, analyse what's needed, share my thoughts with what I can, and then maybe apply it to the maps and add on further. Welcome if you're currently here during the live premiere. Share your live reaction in the chat box on the right side of the screen. And if you want to leave your additional thoughts, if you've got any questions, any answers, discussions, be sure to drop them down below in the comment section. And if you want to support the channel, there is a pinned message as well below with a PayPal link and channel membership. If you want to catch up on recent coverage by me on the Noah Presgrove case, you'll be able to find that all available top right corner where the eye symbol is, along with some other loose videos attached. With that being said, we're going to go straight into the article, read through it, and then the maps. The title reads, Oklahoma authorities hesitant to rule teen's death as homicide, famed pathologist suggest. And below, Noah Presgrove found dead along highway on Labor Day 2023, would have turned 20 on May 14th. May 17th, 2024, this article was done. So it is an old one, but take in consideration, in recent time, been a couple of posts on Facebook of people resharing old news articles for whatever reason. So based on that, we'll take a look specifically at this one. And in some ways, maybe I've never read it before, so it's important to acknowledge it now. As mystery surrounds the 2023 Labor Day death of Oklahoma teen military hopeful Noah Presgrove, a forensics expert broke down the medical examiner's most recent findings and shared his theory on what caused the 19-year-old's death. Dr. Michael Baden, an American physician and board-certified forensic pathologist known for his work investigating high-profile deaths, told Fox News Digital that Presgrove's death is a terrible case and that the medical examiner's report revealed many details surrounding the night he died. Well, Noah did not die the night time. It was morning time of Monday onwards. There's a bit of a difference. So, whilst we've seen some experts here and there in the past give their thoughts, we'll see how it compares to what Michael Baden says. In quotes, he had a lot of internal bleeding, so his heart kept pumping for a little bit after he was struck. But if there's a possibility that in an ATV accident, he might have had punctured lung and was bleeding slowly. And then as he's walking along the highway, the bleeding gets worse and he collapses. And then a truck hits him and causes all the injuries on that account. But that would be a lot depend on what his condition was when he gets back to the party. Depending on the condition of Noah after the side-by-side rollover, that was it visibly obvious. Did people pick up that Noah was actually hurt and needed some attention? Now, it's still a bit weird how something like that could happen. How does it explain Noah walking down the highway? Why would he be walking down there? So you can eliminate some ideas and combine others. That if Noah had hurt himself more than what he knew or let on at the time of the side-by-side rollover, continued on like nothing had happened, and then he walked it off at 3:30 to go and rest somewhere. If he was in pain, if he did collapse, if he was somewhat injured, he could have retreated into the bed of a pickup truck to rest it off or just to gather himself, and then he passed out temporarily, whether that through sleep, through the injuries. And the next time he woke up was when the vehicle, driven by whoever, was driving down the highway. And then Noah tried standing up and fell out that way, which caused injuries by falling out, whether it be fatal or not. And then landing on the road somewhere, another vehicle comes by and clips, hits or run over Noah, but they're unaware of it at the time and don't think much about it. Depends what side of the road Noah had fallen onto, oncoming traffic coming north or south. It would make you think. But it's interesting in a way. Take in mind that I had already suggested in my map analysis theories that if Noah Presgrove had got injured in some way at the party and then was walking away and then succumbed and collapsed and died that way. But in terms of the Tim Daniel approach, combining two factors, two events together, which caused the overall total injuries, that is possible, and linked with what this expert believes, there are chances. Presgrove was found dead along a rural stretch of US 81 in Jefferson County on Labor Day in 2023. He was last seen alive at a party he attended with a group of friends that night, but nearly a year later the family says that no one has come forward and told them how he ended up along the highway. And yeah, that's an interesting point there, specifically about how Noah ended up along the highway. But in fairness, depending how Noah got there, if there was no murder and there was no foul play, if Noah had got into the back of a vehicle and no one knew about it, then no one would be able to explain how Noah got there in the first place, unless some people's suggestions were, oh, maybe Noah did walk down there and fell asleep in a grass verge or a ditch, like how he did once before in the past. And that's what was one of the influences as to why certain partygoers went out looking for Noah down the highway specifically, because that's the direction he was heading in when Logan, as claimed by Jack, to see Noah walk away. So you go down east, down the dirt road, towards the highway, you don't see any sign of Noah, so you'd probably assume, well, Noah must have gone onto the highway then. And then heading north, why? Because Noah lives that way, would have to go that way to get back home. Would any of the partygoers be anticipating Noah to try and make it home on foot? Who knows? But going so far down to the Sandplank Crossing, and why only there and why not beyond? Well, how far do you go down the highway? At the time of when you ultimately don't know where Noah is or how far he could be, how far do you keep going down? But it didn't seem to be enough concern to report him as a missing person. Instead, people were just like, oh, well, he might have been picked up. Someone may have given him a ride somehow. Would anyone, and do you think any of the partygoers possibly considered reporting Noah as a missing person if you couldn't find him at the time? To go out searching prompted a level of concern, right, and a bit of worry. But the end outcome, there wasn't any additional action taken. Justice for Noah, it says down there, Zachary Wright. It's an old banner there, I believe. Nearly 8 months after the death of Oklahoma teen Noah Presgrove, the family is still searching for answers. In quotes, "My family is strong, but today is hard. We all miss him deeply. No one new has stepped out with different information, so it's a waiting game." Noah's sister, Madison Rawlings. According to the medical examiner's full report, the further investigation, it was determined that Presgrove was drinking at a house party where he was involved in a side-by-side rollover incident. Investigation revealed that Presgrove returned to the party where he got into an argument with his girlfriend after the side-by-side incident. The thing is, if Noah Presgrove was in a relationship at the time, his girlfriend wasn't present, wasn't at the party, but somehow Jack Newton at some point previous, or at the time, was flirting behind the back of Noah with Noah's girlfriend. And that's what led to the Saturday or past midnight, going into Sunday morning, argument between Noah and Jack Newton. As for Noah getting in an argument with a girl at the party, maybe that's to do with Avery, right, with the bedroom debacle. No one new has stepped out with different information, so it's a waiting game. That is the only part of the partygoers' stories that match. Each one that we have had the opportunity to talk to claims that a wreck did happen, but he was completely fine, still not sure on who the girlfriend is. At the time, they didn't know. But as for that side-by-side rollover, if Noah was fine, and the likes of Carter Combs acknowledged it as well, it was fine, and indirectly Stephanie Millan acknowledged it, he was okay, or Sam. But then you got Caden Pressey that said, well, Noah had a bloodied nose. And then you had another person that claimed, well, Noah Presgrove had a busted lip. So there was a minor injury at least. Robin Smith, the aunt to Noah, said in a post she was told that a Texas boy had a busted lip or was slightly injured. So there seems to be some level of damage, just not serious enough, but that's only measured and monitored, and people react based on what's physically visible. What about internal? What about inside? Was Noah Presgrove the type of person, as in if he ever did get injured or hurt, would he just laugh it off? Would he make a big fuss about it? Would he tell anyone, or would he keep quiet? Some people that may bang their head may think nothing of it at the time, but then there's delayed effects afterwards. A person that may drown in water and is rescued, and you think, oh, they're okay now, they're safe. Then a bit later you got secondary drowning. So there are additional factors you've got to consider the delayed effects. There's a level of impact, a knock to the head. It's got to be taken and treated seriously. Kind of like what you get in the sports games, in football, in soccer, and so on. That they've had a knock, they've gone down, they might get back up, but not immediately. They're checked over, check for concussion, check for any long-term problems, and just out of safety protocol. But when you're at a party and when you're under the influence of alcohol, if you did just happen to hurt yourself, get injured in some way, maybe under the influence of alcohol, it might be a little bit more numbing and you've got adrenaline pumping through your body, you might not notice it or feel it the same way. So there was a punctured lung, and there was a punctured organ, but because of what, ribs or a rib breaking? Is any of that possible? Because this expert is suggesting it in a way. What else do we have here? I don't know what to believe. Honestly, do I think they intentionally killed him? No. Do I think they were drunk and got into a fight with Noah? Yes. Kristen Smith, the mother of Noah's best friend, Hayden, told Fox News Digital Smith shares a birthday with Noah, who turned 20. Baden said that due to the level of alcohol in Presgrove's system, he may not have even been aware that he was severely injured. Well, there we go. So even though I'm not an expert, with me suggesting it before reading it, shows I'm on similar wavelength, which is good to know. You think about like in the historical old times where a person might have a limb to be cut off and it's not done under the modern conditions in hospitals. They've got to bite on a rag. They might have to drink some rum or something to try and block out the pain. Not enough, but it might numb a little bit. As for Noah Presgrove, already drunk and with the adrenaline too. Maybe eventually, if it did wear off, then Noah realised. Maybe it was around the time of 3:30 onwards. Let's just continue reading. The issue would be if he had significant injuries from the side-by-side, such as internal bleeding, and he's too intoxicated to think of going to a hospital or a doctor or something. With the amount of alcohol believed to have been consumed at the party, Baden said the others at the party may not have even realised Presgrove was hurt when he returned, since his injuries were mostly internal. They assumed whatever differences of appearance he had was because he was drinking and not because of the side-by-side injury, which would not have caused him to collapse or anything until enough internal bleeding had occurred, since it was a small leak, a small laceration to the lung. That's an interesting way of looking at it, to be honest. The smaller the puncture, the longer it takes, the longer you're able to feel okay in a way. But then, when you may realise too late and not much can be done. Others at the party may not have realised Noah was hurt. That could apply in some way, but then it was Caden Pressey that saw a photo from a video of it, the after effects of the rollover, and Caden had said, well, Noah was injured with a bloodied nose, and another person in the background online had said it was like an injured lip. Maybe it's along the lines of people noticed a minor injury but didn't take much care or note to it because they thought it's only a surface level thing, it's just a scratch, no big deal. There is that too. And maybe if Noah Presgrove had washed away any of the blood beforehand, before anyone actually saw it, I'm going to take that into consideration. In terms of actually falling out of a vehicle, or depending on how it rolled over, was Noah still in it when it rolled over, or was he flung out? Did anything land on top of him? If there was any video footage, there might be footage of the after effect, but It would have been interesting to know how the vehicle landed, rolled over, and how Noah landed as well. And did he get up quick? Was he staggered? Was he shocked by it? Along the lines of that. They assumed whatever differences of appearance he had because he was drinking. So the drinking aspect as in behaviour, body language, being sociable, flirting and things like that. Because the only thing that could cause the extent of the injuries to his head and spine would be a car wheel coming over him, or a truck, more likely a truck, and probably on the ground. And I think either he was internally bleeding and intoxicated, walking along the highway, and he collapses, and he's lying there, and the vehicle comes and hits him in the head whilst he's on the side of the road. Interesting. On the side of the road. If on the side of the road and you're hit, you are still going to be shunted or adjusted slightly, right? And, was there any blood splatter? Not from what I'm aware of. Baden added that Presgrove may not have even realised how hurt he was based on his blood alcohol level. So the one thing alcohol does, it's an anaesthetic agent, and it can cover up pain caused by broken bones or a lacerated lung, Baden said. He said after reading the full medical examiner's report, he believes an auto incident contributed to Noah Presgrove's death. I mean, it's still on the table and discussion within the case in general, and I think treated by police, that a vehicle can still be involved in some way. Now, a hit and run is when you're driving a vehicle, you knock somebody over, you run someone over with intent or not. I guess you notice it, you know what's happened, but you don't stop. Whether it was a person, an animal, or something else, you didn't bother stopping, you just continued on. Or you knew why it was, but you continued on and you did not call for help. I guess that's what you deem as a hit and run. Is it possible for it to not be a hit and run, as in Noah Presgrove may have not succumbed immediately but collapsed and was still somewhat alive, and then a vehicle driving along totally unaware of what was ahead, and then clipped or ran over Noah in some way, and the driver was completely oblivious? Is that still considered a hit and run? If it was, is it because the person didn't stop and call into police or anyone? Would it, in a different situation, would it have been a hit and run if somehow Noah did collapse on the ground, a vehicle was driving along, but depending on, let's say more so if Noah Presgrove had collapsed and was already dead, and then you run over a dead body, it's not a hit and run, is it? Anyway, I was reading the full medical examiner's report. He believes, authorities classified Presgrove's manner of death as undetermined, though Baden says he believes the circumstances surrounding the teen's death are consistent with a hit and run. If somebody struck him, stopped, looked at him, and didn't do anything about it and took off, that's a hit and run. That could be a homicide kind of thing. So they're hesitant to classify it either as an accident or a homicide, Baden said. It's a very sad case, but it's consistent with a hit and run situation, being that somebody hit him and didn't stop. Presgrove had recently graduated from high school 3 months early with plans to enlist in the military alongside his cousin. A homicide kind of thing. Hesitant to classify as an accident or a homicide. But they're saying here about it and took off. Yeah, stopping, looking, and not doing anything, that's a hit and run. Yeah, right. But if you didn't stop, you didn't look, you didn't do anything because you didn't know, is that not a hit and run then? Presgrove, okay, and that appears to be at that. So, with that being said, let's just go on to the maps and analyse visually. Currently looking at the highway, but let's refer back to the party house first of all with the whole side-by-side situation. You know, there's been a bit of a mystery about it. It took some time to try and figure out or whittle down who could have been the passengers, and we still don't know for definite, as in facts and backed up with evidence, but it's been ruled down to possibly the Texas boys, 5 or 6 of them, if that's all of them or some of them, are on the side-by-side with Noah. Were they friends with Noah or strangers? Who knows? We've looked at the theory as well, as suggested by me, because I know some people like to say that I don't do it, but I have, in which in the past I suggested, is it possible that when people put their trust in Noah to be safe hands, and then Noah does what he does recklessly, did it piss off any of the Texas boys? And they retaliated on Noah afterwards and got revenge in that sense. How dare you endanger our lives? You need to be taught a lesson. That type of reaction. Not saying that's the case, but just a suggestion. If it was them, and if it was the same people that were on the side-by-side that may have got revenge, well, if it's the same people what Robin talked about from what she was told by police, that 5 Texas boys were cleared from the case, so maybe that debunks that. So we just referred to Noah Presgrove alone, and if he did face any injuries, any internal trouble, which no one else could see, which he couldn't feel either. At what point did it kick in? See, not the same situation, different situation. When a person may be struggling or may be suffering inside, not through physical internal injuries, bleeding, but maybe more so with the brain, they might not act themselves. And depending on the health condition as well, it could put a strain on the brain. It could just impact the person's overall psychological health, where they may become a bit snappy. They may appear a bit distant at times or disconnected, and how they respond back, the wording, the tone, the sharpness, the short fuse, and it's like, what's wrong with that person? And it might become more visibly known, but just not known what's really going on inside. And on other occasions when it might be to do with the brain, some kind of issue there, more physical, on that case, that end, pressure build up on certain parts of the brain, leading to unnatural, slightly more negative reactions and behaviour. And then eventually, when it's figured out what's really going on and it's too late, the person may end up collapsing and dying on the spot. Bit of an extreme case scenario, that. And in other ways, it's just what goes on within can often be unknown to, outsiders and people nearby. The only person that may know is the person that is struggling or suffering with something within. But if Noah Presgrove, of all people, didn't know at the time, then what's the chances that any of the other partygoers would have known? Very unlikely. And if that's mixed with alcohol, if it's mixed with adrenaline after the side-by-side rollover, because people say it wasn't a big deal, but it all comes down to how the side-by-side rollover took place. We could possibly do a bit of a demonstration right now to suggest that. So here we are once again with a demonstration, but this time round Noah's in the driver's seat, and this is focusing in on the side-by-side rollover. When driving around behind the pasture, back garden, if you want to put it that way, as mentioned by Jack. In terms of how Noah got into the vehicle and where the vehicle was in the first place, I don't know personally. Was it at the front? Was it round the back? Was it driven round the back? And then what? And how long for were they driving? There are still many mysteries with the side-by-side rollover, which is quite frustrating as for the true identities of people who were driving, or passengers more so. So driving around in the side-by-side, take in mind this is not an accurate vehicle, it's just what I've got at the moment. Driving about, how long for? Was it true drunk driving? Was it reckless? Were they going fast or what? Now, supposedly there was a swimming pool and decking round the back. So if you're driving round the back, there are obstacles to swerve around and avoid. If Noah Presgrove wasn't really paying attention, his reflexes, reaction timing is slowed down because of being drunk. It might have been a last minute swerve around. And when turning quick and then turning another way, depending if it was 1-2 or just one quick turn, and the momentum in the vehicle and the lightness of it, and depending on the balance of the people distributed in the passenger area, could have caused it to tip like that once and then stop, or tip the other way like that. And that's supposedly how it was. And then Noah was seen kind of like sat down like that with a bloodied nose as a person walked up or ran up to him, and they were laughing and joking. Laughing and joking in the moment, but could the same be said afterwards? Maybe not, if it took a toll on him. But how did he fall out? If he was seen on the ground like that, did he fall out of the vehicle as it rolled over? Did the vehicle roll over and he hit the ground and was stuck inside and then had to climb out the top bit? Did it fall on him? Try and demonstrate it here. In the vehicle, tips like that. Stuck inside. Maybe possibly able to wiggle out, but if there was a roof, you might not be able to. You might have to try and get out at a slight angle and fall out. Or getting up, climbing out of here and getting on top of the vehicle to land back down onto the ground. But if you're trapped inside, was Noah Presgrove wearing a seatbelt? Were there any seatbelts present? Is it possible that Noah had fallen out in some way, like that, and then the vehicle landed on Noah somewhere, like that, but not too noticeable, or people would have panicked and rushed and maybe have reacted? There have been rumours, there have been suggestions about Noah Presgrove and a nurse coming on down to check in on Noah. How true is that? Not seen any hard evidence. Has there been any official documented records if a nurse was down there to do a report or a check-in? Not seen that. But the vehicle did somehow land on Noah. Would it have caused any of the injuries associated with the autopsy report? Yes or no? Did it cause part of an issue, crushing effect in some way? A crushing effect which led Noah to being winded, knocked slightly, thinking he's okay, when realistically he may not be. If this expert suggested that a puncture, if it may be through like a broken bone, broken rib, going inwards, hitting, puncturing, stabbing one of the lungs or something, and then it's slowly filling with blood, but very slight and slow. But Noah thinks he's okay, gets back up, escorted to the shower by Carter and Jasmine. So you could base it off previously as, well, Noah needed assistance being taken to the shower and assistance in being held up when having a wash because he was drunk and disorientated. Well, is it possible that the reason as to why Noah needed assistance and holding up when having a wash is because he had additional issues going on inside of his body? Is that possible? Then when it came to the bedroom debacle, was Noah Presgrove more aggravated because he couldn't sleep in the bed when he really needed it most because he was actually in a level of discomfort? Did Noah Presgrove have any issues when it came? I mean, you got the jumping around teabagging people, so was there no come down effect then? Was it just an adrenaline burst or what? Because if you did have issues with breathing, with blood levels, with punctures, and you're running about all over the place, are you going to be able to do that? So you've got to take that into consideration. But with the bedroom debacle, if Noah Presgrove was somewhat injured or feeling it, and it was coming on to him, and he needed to rest in a proper bed, or at least he felt that's what would help, but ultimately he needed more, he needed medical attention, and Noah was a little bit aggravated and frustrated, so he decided to just walk away. And when walking away, did he walk towards the highway? As in, this is the highway, Noah's walking along, stumbling, and then collapses on the hard shoulder. Would have to be across the hard shoulder, bordering onto the roadway for a vehicle to go over. But likely the way Noah Presgrove's walking, he's going to be on this side, heading north, not that side. Yes, he was found on this side, the way he could have been walking. But to be hit by any vehicle whatsoever, it would have had to been coming towards south, like Tyler Hardy or Tyler Hudman, driving in that direction to possibly hit Noah and land on the side. People have said that Tyler Hudman, in which people didn't know the full name at the time, was a bit suspicious or dodgy. George Choden said something about, oh, there's a driver or there's a familiar name, and there's a lot of coincidences with familiar names keep coming up. Is somebody suggesting, without directly mentioning, that one of the Tylers could well be responsible, or the Tyler is responsible? The one that made the call in is the one that actually hit Noah Presgrove somehow. But it's not the complete full story, because Noah Presgrove had collapsed before that, and one of the people ran over Noah's body somehow. That it's not literally a hit and run if Noah Presgrove may have already succumbed to death if he had collapsed on the roadway area. But if anything applies to Noah walking down the highway, likely, more than likely, going to be on the hard shoulder area at least. And if heading north, more than likely facing oncoming traffic, just like how you might daytime when you're on country lanes and country roads. So then you can see it, they can see you when it approaches. But in the dark, it's not going to help one bit. So Noah Presgrove's walking along and then collapses, stumbles. And then if you've got a pickup truck or a semi-truck driving down south, unaware of what's there, and run over like that, or clips slightly the head area, which nudges him further back or so. How does that explain the white shorts ending up in the middle of the roadway? That's why I still link on to the possibilities of you can have the Tim Daniels suggestion, you can have the Dr. whatever his name is suggestion about an earlier injury than succumbing to it afterwards, but then you can also add in the falling out of a vehicle theory. Let's group it all together back on the maps. Here we are. So picture it, Noah Presgrove, 3:30, walking away, heading east, possibly injured, possibly a delayed effect reaction catching up on him, maybe the alcohol slightly wearing off a little bit, or maybe just more so the adrenaline from earlier, possibly. That when you distance yourself physically and psychologically speaking, you then start to have more time by yourself. In other ways, that when you are isolated from people, when you're by yourself, you've got more time to think. And that's not always a good thing. In the case with Noah Presgrove, more so physically speaking, by isolating yourself from the party, from a good time and all the noise and the voices and familiar faces and all of that, you're walking by yourself, you're more in tune with yourself, you're feeling more now, your senses are a little bit more heightened and increased than earlier. Earlier there was distractions, many, but now not so much. So now you might start picking up and feeling things that you didn't earlier. And if adrenaline has worn off too, certain numbing effects are no longer there, meaning Noah Presgrove could feel more. It might be minor, it might not be a big deal, or it could be major. But if we're trying to combine it all together, as in there are two events or maybe more, which could have all contributed and linked from one to another, the catalyst could be the side-by-side rollover. There is still a lot of mystery behind it, so we might as well acknowledge it as a possibility in terms of internal injury. The external part, no big deal. The internal part, you never know. Noah's walking down. He might start stumbling. He might start feeling in pain. Does he collapse? Not exactly. Does he go to rest? Possibly. The whole reasoning behind Noah walking away to cool off, I wouldn't say is because of the whole injury or the side-by-side thing. For me personally, the reasoning for Noah walking away is because of the bedroom debacle, and a little bit earlier, anything else which may have agitated him. With being drunk and with what Caden had said, it's normal for Noah to walk away, not to lower the mood, go off, cool down, and return back. And normally when drunk. So it seems like a normal thing, that. But this time round, what was different? That there was an accident earlier, which wasn't attended or seen to any further. Noah brushing it off, walking away, thinking everything's okay. And then what? Takes a turn for the worst, or starts feeling discomfort or pain and feels, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just go and rest here and, sleep it off, or just give a few minutes just to recover or so. And he stumbles. Does he climb into the back of a pickup just to be able to rest, lay back, and figure out what's going on, what's wrong with him? But then by then, either by exhaustion, sleep, injury itself, or a combination of them, starts to fall off, drops off, passes out maybe. And then people leave the party, whoever they are, maybe Texas boys, to get in a vehicle, which Noah's in the back of, unaware, driving off, heading north, Sandplank Crossing, and round here, whilst driving, Noah Presgrove's woken up, thinking, oh, where am I? What's going on? Still feeling the possible effects of being drunk, but then the realisation of being in somewhat danger physically, internally, maybe bleeding. Stands up or tries to, stumbles, doesn't have the strength or energy, disorientated, and possibly falls out the vehicle. Maybe landing head first or neck first, causing certain injuries there. Hitting the ground. Shorts, the white ones, for example, remain attached to the vehicle if they caught on it when Noah was falling out. Then the shorts blew off shortly afterwards to land in the middle of the roadway. That's at least how I make sense of it. If one piece, one item, one bit of evidence can be explained as to how it ended up in the middle of the road, for example, like the shorts, catching on the vehicle, which Noah is in, Noah falls out, shorts remain, shorts are then dangling on a vehicle, and then the wind blows them off, and they land in the middle of the road. It explains the separation and distance between Noah's body to where the shorts were, or are. And if it was the shoes, well, I know some people have put counterpoints saying, well, if Noah had fallen out of the vehicle, wouldn't the shoes have come off as well? I personally don't know myself, compared to like an actual hit and run. But take in mind, Jack did say that Noah had one shoe on, one shoe off. What's the whole point of that, the deal? Because the autopsy report said Noah had mismatched shoes on, not one on, one off. So why did Jack say something different? We've not heard an answer since. But still rolling with the theory and original idea of Noah falling out of the vehicle, already injured, then further injuring himself from hitting the ground and rolling, then landing somewhere down, and we'll probably do it on here. The actual width of the road, in fairness, isn't that wide, so it's possible to land somewhere on one side, one lane, or halfway across, and then to be hit and then shunted across to land in line with the white line hard shoulder. Depends how Noah fell out and landed, in what angle, what positioning. What the expert was saying was Noah was simply walking down the highway, collapsed somehow, and was exposed to the road, more than likely this lane, which would be heading south down that way, meaning oncoming traffic, which is coming from north, which would be like the Tyler Hardy, Tyler Hoodman, and so on, names like that. Not that they're responsible exactly, but just memorable names that had come on down this way, including that other woman. But it's been said since that the woman that claimed to have seen a side-by-side come out of nowhere down the highway, she was actually leaving work and heading on home, heading north, so she would have been on the other side of the road and didn't see Noah Presgrove. Is that because he wasn't there at the time? Is it because she wasn't looking? Because it depends. That would have been at 4:48. So Noah may have walked away at 3:30. If Noah had fallen asleep, passed out in the back of a pickup, how long was he there for until someone left the party to get in that said vehicle to then drive off? There could have been a bit of time in between that, meaning Noah wasn't exactly dead just yet. And then when driving to come down here, then Noah tries standing up, falls out, hits the ground, tumbles a bit, doesn't cause all the injuries, but some of them. And then to finish Noah off, if he isn't already dead, either oncoming traffic this way, or even heading north, going from south that way, colliding with Noah. But if any of that did happen, supposedly no one decided to stop, report, call it in, or own up. But then someone like Chris Pyatt, who was driving down the highway at a certain time, didn't see Noah, but reported to have hit something, thought it may have been a hog, but still felt guilty or felt responsible, so called police, and then it was resolved and he wasn't responsible. Said something about checking a vehicle 3 times. I don't know if that's Chris's vehicle 3 times, to be certain, or just a vehicle in general in the case, to determine that a vehicle could well have been used in Noah's death somehow. But it was mentioned that a person was, going to the casino or leaving from where the casino was, and like some guy, trucker, and drunk, and may have hit Noah but didn't report on it, and police were trying to track him down, in which they did. Would they have been responsible for possibly running over, clipping, hitting Noah somehow, but Noah wasn't stood up, more so either on his knees or flat down on the ground, which when hit wouldn't cause you to fly as far as if you were stood up, if that makes sense. Kind of like when you get roadkill, when you get a rabbit, when you get a bunny, when you get a squirrel, maybe a pigeon, a duck, if they don't move quick enough, they'll get hit, but they'll get more so run over. If you're dealing with a deer, an elk, something bigger in size in which you could hit, if you clip it, it's going to fling off to the side, clip to the side of the road as roadkill, or you could hit it head on and it could then be pushed back further down the road. Or if it's of a certain height or a certain shape, more so a human, and if it's a lower top vehicle, more like a car, you could get hit with the bonnet, roll over the hood, top of the roof, and then land down on the ground. Depends on the angling of how a person's hit. It depends on the distance based on whether the person's stood up or kneeling or flat down on the ground. Right? There's no tyre marks on Noah's body, I believe, so I guess the vehicle would have had to have ran over or hit Noah in such a way that it didn't leave marks. There was like black marking on Noah's back, asphalt, whether that be by Noah falling out of the vehicle, scraping and colliding with the ground and rolling, and when getting hit by a vehicle and then being shunted to the side and collecting on the side there. There was no touch-based DNA on Noah's body, but besides the tampering and the possible staging of a hit and run, besides partygoers being accused of doing that, is it possible in some way that a stranger, another person, recklessly hit Noah Presgrove, recklessly finished off Noah Presgrove from Noah already suffering from previous injuries before that, as we said, as part of events, that they got out, and if they were a trucker, not a guarantee, but sometimes truckers may be more likely to be carrying gloves about with them. So could one of the truckers have got out, moved Noah's body to the side, kind of like animal roadkill, and then drive on? But would it have been anyone that have made a call to police, or someone that just didn't make a call because they didn't want to be traced and tracked, and they just moved on like nothing happened? Then came Tyler Hoodman and Tyler Hardy. Coincidence how they've got the same first name, but came on down and then noticed it. It's just something tells me in the back of my mind that is there a possibility that Tyler Hardy, Tyler Hoodman, same individual in some weird way, or that one of the two is somewhat responsible. What people are hinting at online, take in mind some people are cryptic in recent time. It doesn't help, but maybe there's a reason for it. So you can't help but think and question and wonder what it could actually be. So the possibility of 2 to 3 events side by side, certain internal injuries, written off at the time, no big deal. Catches up with Noah when walking away, needs to take a rest, goes into the back of a vehicle, then indirectly, unknown to him, transported down the highway to actually get here, because I just don't believe that Noah Presgrove would be walking down the highway based on what's been said in the case and community ever since, that whilst Noah may have wanted a lift back home, eventually he stopped asking and seemed to accept and be okay with just staying at the party house, that after that point there'd be no need to walk home. But to end up on the highway, Noah must have likely have been in a vehicle in some way. Some say yes, in a vehicle dead and then pushed out onto the side to be disposed of as a form of hit and run, possibly staging. But the other way of looking at it is Noah passing out, sleepy, injured, side effects, delayed, catching up, back in bed of a pickup truck. People from the party leave at a certain time onwards to get into it, drive on down the highway, completely unknown that Noah's in it. Noah wakes up, tries standing up, falls out, shorts caught, wind blows him off, eventually lands in the middle of the roadway. Bastard just whacked my hand on the wardrobe. Noah tumbles, lands on the ground somewhere, and then at some other point a vehicle comes along and finishes off Noah, but the person driving isn't doing it on purpose and may not be aware, or not too conscious, not too focused, drunk or not, it's still a problem, and continues driving on, maybe. But Noah would have to have been hit in order to end up on the side of her. And depending on where Noah landed originally, if he did fall out of a vehicle, that's a bit, in terms of the angling, the trajectory, and how you're hit or how you maybe collect. It's got to be in a certain way for it to all line and align up together to make sense, but it's always possible, you never know. So what is the deal at the end of the day based on that theory? Well, it just goes to show how you can attach different aspects from different outlooks all together into one in a certain order. Side by side would be an accident, but also a bit recklessness gone wrong. Then the form of being in a vehicle somehow wasn't really planned, as in what was going to happen next, nor anticipated, to then falling out, accidental, no one else to blame, just unfortunate. Then possibly being struck by a vehicle and finished off. Accidental, maybe not done with intent, but the person driving reckless, possibly nonchalant about it, non-reactionary, cause for concern. Was there any drunk driving involved but had nothing to do with the party and it was an isolated thing? Would it divert any attention away from the whole social hosting pushing aspect? I wonder. But no, probably if it does link back to a possible internal injury with Noah, with the side-by-side rollover somehow, not known at the time, but a slow build-up and delay to Noah, making him worse off, that the alcohol part linked with drunk driving on around the pasture, causing it to roll over. If Noah Presgrove wasn't drunk, would the vehicle have rolled over? If it didn't roll over, would Noah Presgrove still be alive till this day? Is that a bold suggestion there? Question? You let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I think we'll leave it there for now. It was interesting this, looking back at an article which I don't think I've looked at before, or I just don't remember personally. You let me know if you've seen it too. My name's Warlike Raf. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.